Hello watch enthusiasts. Now today I'd like to talk about luxury steel leisure watches. So that's to say watches which would be appropriate for example, sailing around on a luxury yacht, or for example, enjoying the beach, or another activity of that type, but would also be a watch of an extremely high caliber, so around the £10,000 mark, and of an extremely high quality. From very reputable brands. So the first watch which I'm going to talk about is the Breguet Marine. Now this is a very, very classic looking wristwatch, but with some very modern capabilities. Now Breguet are known for their extremely high quality wristwatches, with a very classic sort of 18th or 19th century look to them, with their guilloche dials and blued hands. But the Marine, while looking like their other dress watches, is water resistant to 100 meters, which means that you can swim with it, and it comes on this really rather nice rubber strap, meaning that you can swim with it on the original strap rather than having to change it out for an aftermarket rubber strap from the original leather. Also, it has loom on the hands, which makes this an altogether more rounded watch than usual. As traditional Breguets would be very much dress watches, and would rarely be worn outside a dress context. Now, as you can see from this photograph, the case is very much a three-dimensional object, so the sides have this this pattern on them to make the whole case a sort of a boxy shape, while remaining rounded and very flowing in terms of design. It also does have crown guards to protect the crown, while keeping that very old-fashioned look. So this watch would be perfect for someone who enjoys haute horology, but wants a more versatile watch and is willing to spend around £9,000 to £10,000 for one of these in steel. Now this next watch is one which divides opinions. This is the Patek Philippe Nautilus, which is a Gerald Genta design, the very famous watch designer, who worked for Omega before moving to Patek and AP with their watches. Now, this watch is loved by some and hated by others. I fall into the group of people who love it, because I rather like integrated bracelets, which this has. So it's, as you can see, a traditional sort of square design, traditional for and typical of Genta and his watch designs. But this moves away from the very classic look inherent in the Breguet, and towards a much more modern design. Now, in steel, this watch is water resistant to 120 meters, making it a fantastic companion for the beach and for dinner occasions. Now, the dividing features that some people love and others hate are, for example, the ears on the side of the case. So, on the opposite side of the case, the crown guards are mimicked by a hinge, so that the front of the watch can be opened when some certain screws are removed. And I love this look. I love the symmetry of it, while also the lines across the dial add something to the depth of the watch. Now, the name Nautilus does also remind me of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is again one of my favourites, so it's a little touch which I really appreciate. Now, my favourite dial colour for this watch is blue, because it gives a really mysterious look to the watch, but it's available in other versions other than the simple date and time version. For example, this one has the moon phase, a micro-rotor movement, along with a sub-second dial, obviously the moon phase with the date around it, and a power reserve, which are all features which I personally wouldn't go for in a sports watch of this type, or a sort of pseudo-sports watch of this type, but are there if you're interested in having these features, whereas I prefer the plain, simple look of the original. Now, black and white are also two dial options which one can take, along with this different arrangement, again with the moon phase in the middle this time, and a month and a day of the week at the 12 o'clock position. And this is again a very symmetrical and elegant approach to the watch. Now, a chronograph is also available, but I personally think it's slightly overcluttered and wouldn't advise it. But one nice thing about buying a Patek is that you won't lose money on it. Whereas with the Breguet, you will likely make a small loss on the watch. A Patek will hold its value very, very, very well. Now, due to their cult status, Nautiluses are more expensive. These watches come in at around the £15,000 to £20,000 mark for the steel version, and for complications that'll push it up to the £25,000 to £30,000 price bracket. This next choice is also a Genta design, and oddly enough, actually, my Oris Aquis has pushed me towards liking these integrated bracelets more, because I find them more elegant now that I've actually worn a watch with an integrated bracelet. So this is the Audemars-Piguet Royal Oak, and it has quite an interesting history behind it. So the Royal Oak was a ship in, I believe, the Elizabeth-class battleship designation in the British Navy. And the portholes happen to be octagonal, which is where the shape of this watch came from. So a little fact about that. Now, the version I would advise for a sort of a leisurely wearer is the standard version, not the offshore, which is a more butch version of the watch. I prefer the classic and elegant lines of the original. Now, these watches come in at about £14,000, so between the Breguet and the Patek. Now again, this watch is water resistant to 100 metres, making it perfectly appropriate for wearing on the beach or swimming in the sea, along with on the deck of a luxury yacht. Now, I suspect this watch will be more versatile and moves more towards the sports area than the Nautilus or the Breguet. It's better loomed and has less polished surfaces, making it less prone to scratches. Equally, that bracelet is a real masterpiece. The arrangement of links with those smaller links in between, holding the whole thing together, is really elegant and slips under the cuff very easily. Equally, the deployment is very simple and it's a butterfly style clasp. Now, of course, the movement in this is an in-house AP movement, just like the in-house movements in the Nautilus and the Breguet. So there's no off-the-shelf movements here in the modern ones. I know that in the past, though, there were certain ones that used ETA-based movements. But the design of this watch makes it very versatile in terms of wear, possibly more versatile than the Nautilus, with that sort of trademark cross-hatching on the dial and checkering on the dial, which makes it perfectly fine to wear with a polo shirt or a t-shirt, as well as with a suit. Now, several dial options are available. There are whites, there are blacks, and there are blues, but I would probably stick to the black and the blue, because they make the hands all the more visible and easy to read if you're swimming, for example. Now, the final watch which I'm going to talk about is the Rolex Yacht-Master, and this is the non-gold versions. This is the steel and platinum bezel version. Now, I personally think this watch is very elegant, even though it's the most sporty of the watches in this list. Now, it does have a fully polished case, but that big bezel will protect it from knocks and so on. And I think the colours of the dials are really interesting. So there's this dark blue, which I particularly like, but it's iridescent, unlike the other watches on this list, which really does give it extra depth. Now, the classic dial option is, of course, the dark blue with the red hand. Now, the blue dial version is a classic, really, among Rolexes, and especially these Yacht-Masters. Now, the interesting thing about the Yacht-Master is it really was the pioneering watch which brought out the maxi dial, and the increased size of the case, because in the 90s, the Submariner still had those very simple and old-fashioned proportions from the 60s and 70s Submariners. But this watch pioneered the maxi dial and the beefed-up crown guards and so on, which of course had such success. Now, this red second hand really does give the watch a sense of professionalism, which is nice in a sort of a leisure sort of watch like this. Which is, of course, 100 metres water resistant, so using that bezel, you can go swimming, just as you can use that bezel to time your cooking, for example. Another really very elegant version of this watch is the new all-silver one. So this has the same iridescent dial as the blue version, except that this time it's grey, which gives the whole watch a more understated look, which lends to a watch which can be worn in on more occasions with more clothing. Equally, this has a sort of a baby blue second hand, which again makes the whole watch more discreet. And I must say, I really do like the look of this piece. Now, beating inside this watch is the Rolex 3135 movement, which has been used in a lot of Rolex sports watches. And though this movement may not be as well decorated as the AP, the Patek, or the Breguet movements, it is very, very tough and sturdy and will last for years. Most probably actually longer than the owner, making this a perfect choice for someone who has a fairly active lifestyle. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do please like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more in future. So thank you very much for watching. This is the Watch Guy. If you have any questions, my email address is down below for any business inquiries. Over and out.